Hi everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today I'll be showing you 5 cards that I created with the May 2019 Hero Arts card kit. For card number 1, I wanted to create a background using a few of the images that came in the stamp set. So I do decide to use only the images that related to sewing because I knew I wanted to use that fancy die that looked like a yarn ball in the shape of a heart. So I decided to use the scissors, the yarn ball, the needle and thread, the spool of thread, and then the buttons and the hearts, just to create a background here. I will ink all of these up with my Versamark ink and then pour some white embossing powder over this panel. The panel is cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and adding the white embossing powder helps me know where to place the next round of images. And there's no rhyme or reason as to how or why I'm placing the images where I am. I just try to fill in the area as much as I can with the larger images, and then I'll fill in the smaller spaces with the small buttons and the tiny little hearts that came in the stamp set. And I will do some ink blending onto this panel. I don't ink blend very often because I never had the patience with the foam applicator tool to get like a perfect blend. Even with Bristol, it's kind of difficult for me, so I don't often do ink blending, and if I do, it's on a panel that's much smaller than this. But I recently purchased these life-changing brushes, and I will say they're worth the hype that they're getting. I was a little bit reluctant just because I wasn't sure if I would get a vibrant look with these, but you definitely can. Not as vibrant with the foam applicator tools, but honestly, blending with these are a dream. I feel like you waste less ink with these brushes, and they're just much easier to blend. So I think I'm going to full on use these now. I don't know if I'll go to my foam applicator tools. If I do, it'll just be for really small areas. And you can see the yellow to the green is barely noticeable. The transition is not very there. My camera does not pick up the green color very well, and I think it's just focusing a lot on the yellow in the center. So you'll see in the final images that there is a transition between yellow and green. So right there, I just added some water to add some water droplets, and then I'm going over with a paper towel on the white embossed areas to just get off the excess ink and help the embossing powder stand out. And now we're going to move on to the sentiment. I chose thank you for being awesome. There was a sentiment that related to sewing, but honestly, I don't have anyone in my life who sews, so I thought the thank you would be, I don't know, more suitable. But I end up selling this card anyway, so I could have probably used the sewing sentiment. Anyway, so I'm going to take this fancy die that I cut from white cardstock. I'm going to add some art glitter glue behind it and then place it towards the top center of my card. And now I'm just using the needles, trying to figure out where to place them. I do kind of want them intersecting or crossing over one another. And then I'll just add the art glitter glue while they're already placed where I want them to be. And then I'll pop up the sentiment over the die cut. And that will basically finish card number 1. I'm going to add some double-sided tape onto the back of this panel and glue it onto my 110-pound Neenah card base. And that will complete card number 1. Here's a close-up. Okay, for card 2, I'm going to show you some Copic coloring. I don't show a lot of my coloring in this video because my hand ends up covering most of the images that I'm coloring. So yay for being left-handed. I just have to work around that. Usually with bigger images it's okay, but these are so tiny. I only end up using 2 colors for each image, and it's very basic Copic coloring. I start from my darkest and then I go to my lightest. For these scissors, I wanted to make them look golden, like those fancy gold scissors. So I used a YR and a Y marker for that. And then I'm going to use these images to create a teacher card. I think this kit is really great for creating cards for teachers with. Here are all the markers I used if you want to pause it. And I'm going to go over all of those images with my Wink of Stella brush and then off camera die cut them. And then I'm going to take an embossing folder from my stash from the Paper Studio, and it looks like notebook paper, and I thought it would be really cute for this teacher card. And now I'm just arranging my sentiments so that I know where to place my images. And at first, I directly stamp my sentiment over this embossed panel, and it doesn't work because there's raised areas, so some of the words get cut off and it looks bad. So I'll show you. I don't know why I left it in, but I did. I did use the little embossing cube that came in the kit, and then also the powder that came in the kit, but it just didn't look good. So I'm going to restamp all of these sentiments onto some colored cardstock, and I actually end up liking that better anyway, so it kind of worked out for the best. I'm just going to heat set that powder, and this is when I realized that some of the letters just didn't stamp all the way because of those raised areas. So I'm going to restamp the sentiments. This middle one was kind of like the vocal piece of the sentiment, so I wanted it to stand out. So I'm going to take some black cardstock and white heat emboss this sentiment. And I think it says, "You make the world a better place." And then the whole sentiment will read, "Hi there, you make the world a better place, you inspire me." So I will stamp and emboss the "Hi there" and the "You inspire me" onto some pink and purple cardstock. I did use the purple embossing powder that came in the kit. And now I'm just trimming those sentiments down into banner shapes with my scissors. And usually I get these teeny tiny sentiments crooked, but I managed to do pretty good on these. So that's what it's going to look like. I did decide to pop up all of these sentiments right over the sentiments that I messed up on. And as you can tell, I did get a microphone. I got a lot of people saying they couldn't hear me. So hopefully this microphone will work. And I tested it, and it sounds a lot better than it did on my laptop. But I knew I had to fix that because I got a few complaints, and hopefully this will work out for everyone. So I took some pattern paper that kind of looked like burlap, and I thought it would be cute to make this notebook paper look like I taped it onto a wall. So I used some washi tape that looked exactly like that washi tape stamped image that I have on the bottom right hand corner. So that's why I decided to use that, but you could use the washi tape that came in the kit as well. And here I'm just fiddling around with the scissors. I wanted it to look like the scissors were cutting into that pink banner. And that's the finished card. I lost footage of me gluing it all together, but that's how it turned out. So for card 3, we're going to do some more coloring. So I guess I did leave some coloring in this video. And we're going to create another teacher card. And I think this kit was geared towards people who are crafty, people who have hobbies using their hands, sewers, scrapbookers, artists, card makers, and I think I would appreciate this kit more if I had people like that to send these cards to, but unfortunately I don't. All of my friends don't craft. Some of them are artists, but they don't make cards, and I think it's kind of sad. Every time I go to the expo, I always want to meet someone, just one person who's my age who I can maybe connect to and share an interest with. But there's no one. Every time I go, it seems like the clientele is 30 and above. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I've never met someone my age at any kind of scrapbooking or card making convention I've been to. Everyone is like surprised and shocked that there is a young person, which is me, who enjoys this hobby. So I don't know, like it makes me think, is the card making industry going to significantly decline because my population, my era, or generation should I say, are just not making cards? And then that made me think even further, is the card industry in general, like Hallmark, Papyrus, just cards, are they also going to be struggling 40 or 50 years from now? Because especially in this digital era where you can send emails or e-cards, I even read that people are sending their wedding invitations through email now. is the the card industry in general going to suffer? I don't know. I hope not, because I sell my cards, as a full-time job. I rely on it as an income, and I want to continue it for the rest of my life. So it is something that I think about, and I'd like to know your opinions about it. But I do think with the addition of Pinterest and Etsy and, these platforms where you can share handmade things, people are starting to appreciate art and crafts a lot more. So I think it could go one or two ways. I really don't know. And I'm trying to stay positive about it. But for now, I'm doing well, and people love this hobby. I love it. And if I can share my hobby with younger people, I will. And I have. I do have friends that will come over and help me, especially when I have larger orders. So I don't know. We'll see. But leave me a comment letting me know what you think. So off camera, I die cut all of these images. You see the pink and mane image that I colored. I will leave that stamp set down below. I wanted to use that as my vocal piece, and I did use that notebook embossing paper folder again, and I embossed these two sheets of paper. One is gray and then the other is white. I decided to glue the gray right down onto my yellow pattern paper that I cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and then I'm going to pop up this white notebook paper with some foam tape. And now I'm just going to arrange all of my images. I decided to pop up my owl, and then I'm going to use the rest of these stamps, or the die cuts, and place them around my owl, kind of like a cluster. So I glued down the ruler. Now I'm going to glue down the pencil. I thought I would use the paper clip to make it look like I was pinning those two papers together. And I wanted to use the cute little envelope. I placed a heart in the center of it. And then right now I'm gluing down the pencil shavings, but I do end up moving those, which you will see later on. But I do pop up this envelope and place it next to the globe. And I think this card ends up being my favorite. I just really love the pink and mane image that I used. I wanted those scissors to work, but they just didn't fit. So I'll just glue down this safety pin. And then I also have these hearts. I think I use the hearts on every card. They're just really cute fillers. And then this twine was wrapped around the contents of the kit, so I wanted to use that. So I'm going to glue down some of the twine onto the front of the card and then tie the ends to the back with some Scotch tape. And then I'm just going to create a bow with the twine. You can see I did several bows, but I did it off camera. And then now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I again white heat emboss it onto some black paper. And then I chose "You Make This World a Better Place." I think this was, or a beautiful place, I'm sorry. This was my favorite sentiment. It works perfectly for teacher cards. And then I'm just going to adhere that on top of the white notebook paper. I will add foam tape to the end of it so that it's level with the white panel. And then I just will attach my bow to the top left corner. And then I always, most of the time, I will add something to the center of my bows. In this case, I will add a red heart. And then, as you see, I moved the pencil shavings so that I can place my bow where it is now. So there, I just added my heart. And then I'm going to grab my card base, add some double-sided tape to the back of this panel. I thought about matting some black behind it, but I liked it with the white. And that will complete card number 3. I think it's 3. Oh, I'm just actually going to make the owl's glasses a little darker using a black marker that I have. This is a Copic liner. Oh, and then I also add some gloss. Well, this actually came in another kit, but usually I will add glossy accents, but I ran out, so I'm using this lacquer pen that came in a previous kit. and it works very well. It is just like Glossy Accents. And I went over the owl's glasses and the 2 hearts on the card. And then I also used my Wink of Stella brush over all of the images. And I think now that will complete card number 3. Here's a close-up. Okay, for card 4, I'm going to stamp the painting images because my grandma is an artist. So I thought this card would be really cute for her. So I'm going to first stamp out this palette onto the wood grain paper that came in the kit. I thought it would be really cute to have it look like those old-fashioned palettes that I think Bob Ross, if you watch him, I think he uses the wooden palettes. And while I have the embossing powder out, I will also stamp and emboss my paint images. And I had to emboss the wood grain palette because it was on a slick surface and I didn't want any of the ink to smear. And then off camera, I will color and die cut all of these images out, including the palette. I was able to add Copic markers to the palette. And you just have to use darker colors because lighter ones will not show up on the wood grain. But now I'm creating, I guess, like an easel or a work of art using my Distress Ink tool, or my Distress Inks and my ink blending tool. And I just wanted an ombre from red to yellow, as if it was like painted on. I could have used watercolors, that's probably what I should have used, but I didn't want to pull all that out, so I just used my inks. And then I'm going to also stamp out the sentiment that says, "Do what you love." I really like this sentiment. It's very encouraging. And I thought for sure my grandma would love this. She is a landscape painter. She works primarily with oil paints, but she does a little bit with acrylic too, and she's very talented. So I knew she would appreciate this card. So I stamped it towards the top of it because I knew I was going to add the palette on the bottom left-hand corner. I will pop up the easel onto a black frame. And here I'm just laying out all the images, but I felt like it was too white, the background. So I went in with my stitched rectangle dies. I cut out a black frame, and then I also cut a smaller white stitched rectangle, and I just matted the two together, and it gave me a surface that was a little bit smaller to work with, and it added that nice black frame around it. So I'm now adding all of the images onto my card panel. I'm popping a few of them up. I know I popped up the easel and that tube of paint, and then I had this paintbrush that had blue on it, so I just stuck the paintbrush in the blue paint. Thought that was cute. Same with this red tube of paint. I attached it near the red blob. And I really like how this little cluster turned out. And then again, I'm going to take that black and white twine that came in the kit, tie a bow, and then attach that to the top of the card panel. I will again use my Scotch tape. This is the easiest way for me to adhere twine, or any ribbon really. And then I'm struggling to create a bow. Actually, that wasn't that bad. That was pretty fast. So I'm just going to cut off the ends a little bit, and then I will adhere my bow to the top. And then of course I'm going to add a heart to the center of the bow. And I think that just fills up the space that's towards the top of the panel. And I'm happy that I placed that there. And then I think, yes, I add foam tape to the white panel to pop it up onto my black stitched rectangle. And the twine already had some bulk to it, so I didn't add any foam tape on top of the twine. And this twine, this foam tape is from Uline. It's very sticky, so I have to use my scissors to peel off the backing. And then for this black piece, I will just add double-sided tape and adhere that onto my 110-pound Neenah card base. And that will complete card number 4 after I add the little heart to the center of the bow, and then also the caps for the paint tubes. Oh, yes, and then I add a lot of shine to this card. I really liked how this added to the card. So I added the lacquer to the paint blobs and the hearts, and then I think I also added to the caps of the paint tubes. And that will complete card number 4. Here's a close-up. Okay, now we're on to the final card, and I did a lot of this off camera. I did the coloring, stamping, and the die cutting. And again, I just used 2 colors for each image. I didn't want to show you all of that. But I took pretty much every image from the stamp set, and I just wanted to create a background. I did take the wood grain paper that came in the kit and cut that down to pretty small. I think it was 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. And I wanted it to look like a wood table that has all these art supplies on it. So that's kind of what I was going for. And then I stamped the sentiment, "Make stuff, be happy, sending crafty hugs" in the center. And then I just arranged all of the images around that sentiment, and I'm gluing them all down with my art glitter glue. I did pop up the sentiment with some foam tape. And again, I'm using the sequins and the hearts kind of as fillers to fill in those really small spaces. So this card was pretty fast to put together, especially since I didn't do crazy technical coloring here. I just used 2 markers. So I'm just gluing down the last few images here. And I did receive the June kit for Hero Arts, and I plan on starting that this week sometime. I find that the hero kits are getting a little more challenging for me every time I get them. I'm not always inspired by the hero kits. Even though the images they use are really pretty, they're just never my style. But I did like the June kit. I think I have a few ideas for that. I'm not sure if I'll have 5 or 10 cards, but we'll see. So that will complete card number 5. And now I'm just going to show you all 5 cards that I made with this kit. Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means a lot. If you haven't yet already, please subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment down below if the volume or if the microphone is better. And hopefully it is. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.